Hello everyone, I'm Isabel, part of the team at ACCA that delivers student support, and I'm joined today by a fantastic guest, Belinda. Hello Belinda.
Hi, Isabel. It's nice to be here.
It's great to have you here, and you're here today to talk to us about your ACCA journey. We'll be discussing your experiences along the way, the things you learned, and I'll pass over to you in a second to introduce yourself. But spoiler alert, you are now a qualified member and you work at a Big Four company. So I'm really excited to hear your insight into studying exams, EPSM, completing PER, and all of the skills that you've picked up and what life is like after you've qualified. So without further ado, I'll hand over to you. If you could just give us a bit of an introduction to your career, your learning journey, and your current role.
Okay, thank you so much, Isabel. So as you heard, I am qualified. So I'm Belinda, ACCA. Now I can use the letters after my name. Yes. So I currently work as a tech strategy consultant at a Big Four. So I've been in my current role in strategy and transformation for about 1.5 years. Previously, my background is in risk advisory. So prior to that, once I graduated, I worked for about 5 years at another Big Four in tech risk advisory. So in terms of how I got to where I'm at currently, so I studied, did engineering. I have more of a technical background actually. So I studied engineering in uni at Manchester. And then when I graduated, I started my graduate scheme at another Big Four. And while I was doing my graduate scheme is when I started my ACCA journey. So I was doing self-studying at my employer. We were actually being encouraged to do more of the certificate level for ACA. And that's what encouraged me to actually look into more, how can I qualify? And that's when I looked into different accounting qualifications and decided to go with ACCA to just further my studies and to go the full academic route. So that's how I entered into, basically started my journey for ACCA.
And roughly how long was it from deciding to pursue the qualification and qualifying as a member?
I was self-studying, so I was going at my own pace. It was about 5 to 6 years. So I did not have any pressure from my employer to qualify because I was in a tech role. So it wasn't necessarily compared to my counterparts. I did have my peers in audit and tax who definitely had to qualify within 3 years. So for me, I took it at a slow pace. It took me about 5 to 6 years from when I started to when I qualified.
And you've mentioned self-study there, and I really wanted to ask you about this because we do have quite a few students who are self-studying, and they quite often ask for tips on how to manage their time, how to stay on track, and also keep yourself motivated. And so I wanted to get your insight into that. What worked for you? Um, how did you find it? Just anything that you can share with students who are in the same position.
So even if without self-studying, the academic journey is definitely difficult. And when you self-study, there's an additional layer of discipline, commitment, because all the drivers are basically from yourself. So there are some benefits that come, a lot of benefits that come with going to college because you're in a classroom with peers who you get to study together, you get to get some motivation from them. You basically get to build a community. So when you're self-studying, definitely a key challenge is being able to drive past some of those exam failures, being able to also just commit to, especially if you're doing this side of desk, you do have a full-time job. A lot of it is more so just the endurance and perseverance to carry on, do an exam, do another exam, and keep it up until finishing it off. So I definitely say it was not easy, but it's definitely doable. There are not many people out there who have just self-studied throughout and managed to qualify. So I'm definitely evidence that it works. You can do it, but it will definitely involve, you need to mentally prepare for it. You need to be ready to have those low moments where you've not passed an exam and you have to motivate yourself. You have to know that, you know what, I need to finish this. I started this journey and I'm not going to leave it halfway. I'm going to see it through. So it requires a lot of internal self-talk, internal validation. And yeah, it definitely tests your mental resilience, definitely.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. It's very important, I guess, in that situation to have a really clear idea of why you're doing this and what you want to do at the end of it, because like you say, motivation will be such a key part
Yes.
of the journey when you're self-studying. So did you use any particular study strategies or tools to keep you on track when you were studying?
Yes. So with each, I would essentially prepare, leave at least minimum of 6 weeks preparation before the exam. So I used to take the strategy of booking the exam first. So if, for example, currently we're in April, the next exam period would be in June, I would book the exam that I want to do and know that I have no option but to do the exam and work backwards. So I would then create a study plan, so work out how many weeks towards the exam that I have, how much time do I have in a week, and basically break it down into bite-sized studying. So I personally lose concentration quite quickly. So a 2-hour study block would probably not work for me, but rather 30-minute small chunks were working better for me. So I worked with what works for me. Like I was quite honest with myself and how I prefer to study. I would purchase the study material. So I did choose a specific study provider, tuition provider in terms of, there are quite a few, as long as they're ACCA accredited, ACCA approved, then you can use the material. So I'd purchase the study material and then essentially block out based on the syllabus. Block it out into a proper study plan and study schedule. And a big important thing, definitely that worked for me, is practice, practice, practice. Don't wait until you're fully done with the syllabus to start doing mock papers. A lot of the study material, exam questions manuals, they do break it based on topics. So once you finish the topic, you can try out an exam style question. And that really helps, especially when you're self-studying. When you don't have a lecturer who's going to break it down for you, you do need to put that theory into practice, and you need to practice with exam conditions and exam style questions.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. Practice is so key, and yeah, and it's interesting. You said you would book your exam and use that, because we do encourage students to get their exam booked. You're never going to feel 100% ready, and I think there's no better motivation than having that date to work towards. So that's excellent. And I wanted to actually just quickly deviate from exams, because students need to complete EPSM to become a member. And I just wondered at what stage you completed that.
So I did my EPSM actually towards once I'd finished all my exams, which looking back, I would do differently. So definitely, I think from some of the comms that we get from ACCA once you're a member, like a student member, you do get encouraged to do it after you've done the applied skills papers, right before you start your strategic professional. I agree. I think that's the point one should do it, because a lot of it you get guidance on things that will really help you when you're doing your strategic professional papers. So I did it after. I think I was fully focused on exams. I just wanted to get exams out of the way. And once I was done with that is when I started ticking off what else do I need to get qualified. So that's the point that I did my EPSM. It was quite useful, actually. I was surprised by how professional, because I'm already working in a professional environment. A lot of what was being taught there is things that definitely you need to know as a professional, even how to communicate in the workplace. It was very relevant to working in preparing you for a professional setting, basically. So I was pleasantly surprised by that.
That's good to hear. And actually, I think you've made a good point, because I said let's deviate from exams, but actually EPSM really does support your exam success. So actually, they kind of work very closely together. It's an integral part of the qualification. So it's really good to hear that you found it useful. But like you say as well, it's nice to hear when something you may have done differently, because sometimes it's useful for students to hear that. So we'll come back to the other aspect of the qualification, which is the practical experience requirement, in a minute. But I just wanted to ask how you have experienced being a member. So what would you say are some of the main benefits of becoming a member?
I think One key benefit that I noticed straight away, so I mentioned I'm in strategy and transformation now, and I've been enrolled for 1.5 years. That's actually around the time I was qualifying. At the point when I switched roles was when I was qualifying for ACCA. And I believe a big part of why I was able to transition roles from a very tech risk background into more strategy type was because of my ACCA. So I did specialize in performance management, and that's a big part of what I use daily in my role. So just having that, I mean, ACCA is recognized, and I use it all the time. I use it in my signature, and it just adds legitimacy to my experience, especially if you're transitioning roles. So for me, it helped me transition roles. Also in my day-to-day, because I do a lot of business process improvements, I believe that it helps me think differently to, for example, some of my peers are very technical and that's very useful, but just having that understanding, that holistic understanding of how things work in a business, what's important, and just having that element of strategy as well. That's a big part of some of the strategic professional papers. That's been quite useful for me on a practical basis. So I definitely say in terms of career, it has helped me. I was also able to negotiate for my salary, for a bigger salary, included a package for my annual subscription. So it's things that can help you improve the perks that you're getting at the workplace. Yeah.
And did you, speaking of the workplace, so do you think, I want to talk a little bit about your experience of PER. So how and where did you gain your practical experience and how did you find a supervisor?
Okay, so I gained my practical experience at my previous job. So during my year-end performance year discussions, when I was setting my goals for the year, I did tell my manager, my line manager, who was technically my supervisor, I did tell him that I'm studying towards my ACCA. These are the different practical experience requirements that I need to meet. So some are mandatory and some you select based on what you want to specialize in. So we selected them with him based on what was more practical to demonstrate through what I'm doing. It also, we also selected what projects I'd be on or the role I'd play on the project based on what I need to evidence. I was working for an ACCA approved employer. So for me, I did have a bit of a different experience in that I didn't have to do the full, I think you had to do a lot of record keeping to evidence your experience. For me, I did need an approved accountant, a qualified accountant, sorry, to sign off on my experience, but it still needed my line manager to back me and essentially say that, yes, I do have the experience in these different areas. So I tailored my annual objectives, performance objectives based on that and made sure to get the experience as I was going along. So I would definitely recommend you think about it before you finish your exams because you do need the 3 years to be gathering the suitable experience while you are studying so that you don't reach the end and then have to wait again to gather experience to get qualified. You can kind of get both of them together. Yeah.
Yeah, and I was wondering what your thoughts were on how that aspect of the qualification supports your career and the skills that you pick up along the way. Do you think it's a useful activity to constantly reflect on your workplace achievements like that? Or what do you think about the PER experience?
I think it definitely put a lot of the principles into practice. There's some of the skills which, if it wasn't for the practical experience requirement, I probably would never have exposed myself to. Of course, because I'm still early on in my career, I'm pretty sure some of the skills I gained will become relevant at in the future. But a lot of it mainly involved exposing me to roles at the workplace that I hadn't taken on before. And I did have justification to do that. So I would go to the partners like, I'd love to take this role on this project to help me gain a lot of it, especially to do with like costs, like tracking cost budgets, etc. Those are things that were not organic to my role. So I had to actually go out of my way to gain those skills. And that I'm sure will be very useful as I go up the ladder. Yeah.
I think, yeah, that's a really interesting point because I think sometimes it's easy to not seek out opportunities which don't fit your current day-to-day role or the things that you're working towards. Sometimes it's very easy to stay on one track, but actually it's very good to be pushed outside of
Yes.
that sometimes, and be encouraged to look at things in a much bigger way and pick up skills that, like you say, you may not need right now but could become very useful in the future, and also helps you understand what other aspects of the business are doing and what other people are supporting you with. Yeah, it's a really interesting way to look at it. So so I guess you've talked about the benefits of being a member and the benefits of doing that practical experience requirement. So it does sound like you would agree that ACCA has helped you achieve some career goals. Is that right?
It has helped me achieve career goals. It has also built me as a person. I can definitely tell you, just being able to achieve ACCA from start to finish is an achievement in itself, and it probably builds the resilience one needs at the workplace, and it just prepares you a lot. So definitely not just career goals, but even me as a person, I'm definitely different now having completed ACCA.
Oh, that's nice to hear. And do you think that the codification, because sometimes we talk as well about how ACCA opens doors, but I think the flexibility of the qualifications is a really, really positive thing as well. Has that been your experience?
Yes, so as I'd mentioned, I'd self-studied. So for me, I was doing this literally on top of and in addition to my day-to-day job. So being able to just space it out based on what's working for me. Also, the different study methods that are available are varied. There are a lot of ACCA tuition providers out there, people who provide the written, the study, the hard paper study material, but other people who provide online if you prefer to watch videos. So there's so many varied options to study. And of course, there, if you prefer in person, there are a lot of tuition providers who provide that. So it's definitely flexible in terms of how you want to tailor it to meet your current circumstances. And then also, I think it's only what, like 7 year, there's a 7 year rule. So that's a very long period for you to finish, like in between your exams. So you can really like push through, even though you've been doing it for a long period of time, you can still finish it off. Yeah.
That's really good to hear. And do you find it's given you flexible in your career options as well? How you see the future? Is it given you new ideas or opened opportunities that wouldn't have been open beforehand?
I think for me, that's mainly been evidenced by the fact that I was in more of a tech background. So definitely what has opened up a bit more is the business role. So right now I am very qualified to go for a business partner type of role in an organization, even though my background is maybe more tech focused. So it's opened up opportunities more on the business side for me, but I still have also I'm still very qualified to do the tech role. So it has opened up doors for me in that sense. And even just my current role, I'm pretty sure the reason they took a chance on me is because I did have that, legitimacy in my experience, that I'm not that new to strategy. I do have a lens to it through the ACCA qualification.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you. Well, we'll be needing to wrap up the conversation soon, but it's been really nice to chat with you. And I think that you've got such great insight, and it's always good for students to hear from others who have gone through the whole experience and achieved membership. So I wondered, before we wrapped up, if you had any final thoughts or anything you wanted to pass on to share with students, and actually also with people who are still at affiliate status, who are still on their journey to membership. Anything that you'd like to say to them?
I wanted to say, definitely, if I were to look back to myself during that journey, what I definitely want to say back to myself and to my peers who would be going through that is that there is a light at the end of the tunnel. I know how it feels. I know when you are powering through and you really thought that you're going to pass that exam and you've gotten different results, you've probably gotten some disappointing results. I would definitely just urge you to keep going on, definitely keep pushing. It's not a reflection on you. It is just a reflection on maybe how you studied. It is, if you're able to separate yourself from the studying and you're able to take an introspection on how did I study, what could I do different, you'd be able to push through please, please, please don't give up. It is possible. It is possible to qualify. So I'll definitely encourage you to keep pushing. I do cover my journey in a bit more detail. I'm sure, Isabel, you'll probably be able to share some links on that. But I do cover my study journey also on my YouTube channel. So you can check out there if you want more tips. But yeah, I'm happy to be here, and I'm happy that I finally made it. It was not a short journey. It was not easy, but it is doable.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you've said some really interesting things as we've been talking. And I think the fact that you said that the qualification hasn't just changed your career, but has changed you and the way you see things, I think is a really nice point to end on. But also, as you say, the ups and downs along the way are just part of it. It's supposed to be a challenge. It's something hard, and that's what makes it worth it. And I think I also really like the point about if you get a setback, that doesn't define you, it just defines the way that you studied or something like that. So yeah, excellent stuff. Thank you so much, Belinda. It's been great to chat to you. And like you say, yes, we'll include a link to your channel under this, so everyone do check out Belinda. And yeah, thank you for watching, thank you for joining, and we'll see you soon.
Thanks for having me.